Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe. For the Believe Entertainment Network, at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there. Join the militia live on X Spaces for the fan feedback segment of every post-game show. We'll get into a little bit of that. Syracuse falls to Boston College at Boston College yesterday afternoon, 37-31. That drops them to 6-3, 3-3 in the conference. And frustrations mount as fans, 2 out of the last 3 games. So we are going to just jump into this montage, say our piece, and get right to fan feedback. So quickly, let's hear what Coach had to say following the game.
Fran, the call on the onside kick at the end for the early blocking, we don't see that very often. What did you sort of see from the perspective?
No, they called it. I mean, what you want me to say? Okay. It ain't going to change no matter what I say now. So they made a call. We had to go with the call, so we got to get ready for the next one.
Right, my instinct if I'm in that play, like I'm hitting that guy first thing, how do you teach it to make sure a guy...
Turn on it. We make sure that we go. Ball got to be there. They go for the ball. You know, it's just they called it early. They called that we blocked early, so I guess we blocked early.
Coach, I'm just wondering what you saw on the 4th and 1 touchdown.
Bad eyes. We played with bad eyes. I gave a call that we shouldn't have gave, and we ran a call that I shouldn't have called. I talked to Coach E about calling it, and he called it, but we didn't run it for a little while, and I messed the kid's eyes up. So that was totally on me, myself.
What you kind of see from switching a few offensive linemen in and out, was that try to stop him, or was that just...
Nothing's ever to stop one player. It was just because guys got injured, just the way that we rotate. You know, we like to rotate players, so it was just set to rotate guys and all.
Throughout the game, Boston College did a fantastic job running the ball.
Yeah.
Did you have any bigger conversations with Coach Robinson about how you thought maybe that you could slow him down?
No, I was trying to make different calls and telling him different things, so I just messed up on stuff. I kind of went against his judgment, so everything that happened out there was mainly my fault, and I got to be able to tell him different things.
Specifically on the rushing yards, most people out of the season, what enabled you to be so successful with your
They do a good job running the ball. I told you that Coach O'Brien outcoached me. So, you know, it just came to the fact of when we would get into situations to stop him, he went to something else. He had a 4th, 5th, and 6th plan, and I obviously wasn't ready for that, so that was on myself. You know, I got to be able to fix that.
You got a tough start to this game. No points in the first quarter of your time in a row.
Yeah.
How do you start quicker in these games?
I got to figure that out in practice. We got to do different things in practice to get guys to want to start faster. I mean, we're doing everything possibly, but it's just, I think they did a good job too. You got to say what they're doing on defense to be able to stop us, and then, you know, guys start to settle in a little bit more, and then things start to roll. Maybe some of the things that we may call early on might just get us knocked off track. You know, you can't have flags because we would have had it. I mean, you think Kyle rushed for had like a 60-something yard run where they called holding, when you look at it and see it, but so it's different things of that nature that happen. So just flags. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot. Feel like we shot ourselves in the foot a few times. So, but hat goes off to them, man. They just did a good job, man. They was able to win that first quarter and the 4th quarter. They dominated both quarters. Appreciate you guys. Be safe.
All right, Joe. So obviously in a loss, things are, you know, I mean, look. It's pretty cut and dry. No one wants to sit here and listen to us beat a dead horse. But with that said, we'll start beating it right now, and then we'll stop when we start beating it again. Okay. So, you know, from my perspective, the 3 losses that we have, you know, a couple things. You heard Coach talking about shooting themselves in the foot. Like, there's still some really bad penalties. I feel like that should be at this point getting cleaned up. Okay, some dumb penalties, slow starts. Syracuse has a lot of playmakers on offense, However, without Zede Haynes, that deep threat is difficult. You got Hatcher, who's done a pretty good job, but struggled to get some really good separation yesterday. Did make, like, through that game, he made like a couple decent catches, like good catches. And you mentioned yesterday that one that Gadsden made in the end zone just kind of got overlooked as just another catch. But, Pena doing what he does is excellent. LaQuint Allen really couldn't get going on the ground, but 5 catches for 57 yards is, just LaQuint being LaQuint. But however, they could not get the run game going.
No.
You're good.
No, and I was going to say that the way that this whole game played out was weird because when you look at the yardage and everything, it still looks like our offense played good enough to win this game.
It was Kyle McCord's statistically, yardage-wise, is his best game of in a Syracuse uniform.
Right. And you look at him, 2 receivers getting over 100 yards with Meeks and Getz, and then LaQuint Allen getting over 100 all-purpose yards. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of the games earlier this year had looked like, right? But again, it really doesn't tell the whole story. Obviously, they ran the ball all over the place with 200-yard rushers. And I just didn't see, and it really could have been worse, really. They kind of dominated the first quarter, and they only ended up with a 7-point lead. And to get into halftime 14-14, the way that first half went was very, very lucky. And also lucky in the third quarter when old boy picked the ball out of bounds instead of pick it up for a defensive touchdown, because that's kind of where that was headed, right? So, I felt like Boston College really couldn't stop our offense unless they were getting. They did get pressure, right? They sacked them 4 times, but again, it's the start. I mean, imagine what you could do if you actually played 4 quarters of offense. McCord threw for 392 and 2 touchdowns. Imagine what the number would be if you could do something in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of, Boston College sets the pace. And Syracuse did get a first down on their first possession, but they set the pace on the ground. Six rushes for 76 yards on their first drive. And it's just, as Syracuse fans, we've kind of been through this whole not being able to stop the run thing. And I understand, taking into consideration the injuries stacking up for this time of the year once again. But with that said, still really struggling with stopping the run. I mean, they only threw the ball 7 times.
Yeah, that's what you knew that they were going to do. That they've been struggling passing the ball, and if you didn't get the hint from Bill O'Brien in the beginning of the game when he did his little interview there on TV, he was talking about being physical and establishing a running game, and they were obviously doing that. I mean, they had a full offensive line out there with, it seemed like 2 or 3 tight ends out there, and they were just shoving it down our throats. Obviously this is going to be something that we're going to get to in fan feedback, because I know that's a majority of what was on Facebook about talking about our defense. So.
Yeah, one more thing, and I just looked it all up because you and I talked right before we came on about kind of some of the consistencies with the losses. Not that they're positive, but Kyle McCord not getting the protection that he needs in the 3 losses, and in those 3 losses, sacked 4 times in each one of those.
Yeah.
So, this time a little bit different. You mentioned kicking that ball out of bounds or out of the end zone for a safety, which is all fine and dandy. But I'm
just saying they could have easily had another touchdown.
Oh, right? Absolutely. But that was the game was tied, and we had scored 21 unanswered, right?
Yep.
And the momentum was with us, and that was just popping the the balloon, man, and just slowly letting the air out of it at that point for us. And then, I do have to mention this onside kick, illegal block call. I mean, you can watch that 100 times and just see that. I mean, old boy's jumping in the air, and I think that was Robichaud, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's jumping in the air, and, it's a collision for sure. But at the same time, I feel like the ball went 10 yards. Did it not? I mean, it was right there. He was jumping in the air for the ball. It was right there. So
that's kind of my whole point, right? When you have someone that's running at that speed, because I don't know if you went and because that was one of the things I did when I
rewound that a couple times.
Well, I rewound it a couple times, but I also went and looked to see who was on the field, right? And it was, LaQuinn Allen, Justin Barron, Jackson, there were some dogs, like
handsy
fast,
guys.
Elijah Clark, right? I mean, they were right there. It's a situation where you're running full speed and then you have someone that's not moving and they jump straight up in the air. So now they can't get out of the way. And now you're running and you got to get out of the way as someone that's in the air and he's jumping for the ball. So it's only safe to assume that you think the ball is right there. Right. So I don't know. Maybe it's a whole because he wasn't playing the ball thing. I don't know, but
it was kind of like not even that though. It was more or less like you said, you're running full speed and then a dude jumps up in the air. I mean, it's kind of just what we would call football. I mean, I just don't think that late in a game. If you're that late in a game and it's coming down to an onside kick recovery, and we're gonna call that, I just feel like that could be called on almost every onside kick. I mean, it's a cluster once the ball goes 10 yards, man. It's a mess, right? And it's just unfortunate. It just figures, and I didn't even get mad about it. I was just like, kind of whatever. And they still almost got it the second time.
Yep.
So I don't know. 2 good kicks there. For was it Kennedy?
Yep.
So.
Other 2.
Was that?
I think it was Denneberg.
Was it Denneberg? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Well, 2 good kicks by him for that, and I think it was. I think you're right. So, it wasn't for lack of trying. We always have the conversation, and Joe and I have had the argument off air about, it comes down to one play. There's all these other things you can point at, and I mean, but it always does really come when in close games. It always comes down to one play. That's my thought. Like, I understand there's things we could have done throughout the game, like, protect Kyle McCord so he doesn't fumble the ball and out past the end zone. But when a close game, it always is going to come down to the one play. Look at the Stanford game.
Of course, it's going to come down to a game, like a play at the end of the game. I guess my whole thing is that. To go undefeated and win every game, like you need to be perfect, and you need to have the coaches and personnel to do that, right? And you can't have the unlucky injuries. You can't start off slow every single first quarter, and you can't sit there and basically just blow drives and just end drives because Kyle McCord gets sacked or we get a stupid penalty, and that's just the little inconsistencies of why. We've lost probably 2 of the 3 games we've lost. We probably could have, should have won.
Yeah, and Stanford hasn't won since they beat us.
Mm-hmm.
They are on the losingest streak that there is in the AFC. So if that's a thing, but this always hurts when it's a Stanford or a BC. Like Pitt, I get, but. And of course, UVA beat Pitt last night.
Yeah, Pitt's lost twice since we've beat them.
Yeah, but last night, Holstein was taken out of the game, and that quarterback struggled. So, sometimes it goes one way or the other, right? That quarterback's going to struggle, or that defense is going to be caught back on their heels from a quarterback coming back in and kind of taking control of a game in a different manner. So
it matter, right? Castellanos played one of his worst games, I think. He made me a little nervous, and it didn't matter. The second one came in, and because we could not stop that run, then that's really what it. And to be perfectly honest with you, never mind. We get into it.
Well,
For the sake of redundancy, I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
Yet.
All right. Well, then with that said, let's hear from you.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right, you guys know what to do at the end of every game. We ask for your thoughts on that game. You leave them. We talk about them here. So I will take X. Joe will take Facebook, as always. And we're off. So I have not checked any of these out. And if they begin to get redundant, I'm going to just stop reading them. Because I know this game, after 8 years of doing this show, I think we have it down, right, Joe? So,
yeah.
At Baptized by Fire 7, our buddy Dom, trenches have been a problem on both sides of the ball, and every loss it has almost cost us in some of our wins. Some of the close ones, is true. We are wasting Kyle McCord's talent, plus E-Rob makes no adjustments when D is getting embarrassed. Might as well have the granddaddy of the 3-3-5 calling plays. So, a couple of things. He always says a lot in a short amount of time. We've seen what Kyle McCord can do when he has time, and it's dangerous. He didn't do bad yesterday. He was just sacked 4 times, and one of those, unfortunately, turned into a safety. Coach Brown took all of the burden of what happened with the defense not making adjustments or maybe overriding calls. Okay. I don't know. Like, sometimes you can have a coach that's just like, leaders take responsibility and not credit. And so maybe that's just coach saying, you know what? I'm the head coach here. We're not going to bag on one of my coaches, or a staff member or anything like that. I'm just going to take I'm going to take the punches and we're going to roll with it. And that's what happened. But with that said, obviously a problem stopping the run yesterday. And I mean, it's a good point, and I understand everybody's upset, and it was tough to watch, especially when Castellanos only threw the ball 7 times, picked off once in 65 yards total. Yeah. So, because you know what's coming, right? And he did he even run? No, he didn't.
I mean, we've seen this. No, I mean, once or twice, but he got tackled.
Right. He ended up with a net of -10.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this movie before, right? I mean, we've seen it in past years, and to break down. Oh, I don't want to skip by his comment because I had some other things, but realistically, that's some of the more frustrating times that we've seen the past couple of years when you start off, the season with a good record and you get some injuries and you're playing the 3-3-5, and then you play a team like Boston College, who usually just lines up and does exactly what they did to us yesterday. And it's frustrating when you know what's coming and you still can't stop it.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest thing, is you're sitting there watching, and I mean, unless you change up something drastically on your defense, which again, might not even have the personnel, right? We are down probably the top 3 options that we thought we were going to have on defensive line in the beginning of the year are now not even, in the rotation, let alone, starting. So, I mean, we're playing guys on the defensive line today that probably wouldn't have been part of the rotation if those guys didn't get hurt. So it's tough to watch. But at the same time, I think that it clearly gives Fran Brown the obvious list of things that he needs to get better at, obviously, as far as getting personnel and understanding that, we got to get guys and get a personnel in our roster that's not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, this being his first year, we saw what he did in the portal, and we saw what he was bringing in, and to his credit, in that a short amount of time, this team added a ton of depth, especially on offense, right? I mean, with the receivers and everything, and the one thing that hurt us a little bit too, if not now, when 84. Not sure why we abandoned the run with Allen. Hopefully Gadsden and Meeks are okay. Terrible run defense. This one hurts. Well, this one hurts because it's BC. So when, I'm going to be 46 years old, and I've hated BC since I was probably 10 or younger, maybe. So, it sucks. It sucks because it's BC. like you said, Joe, we're not going to win every game, right? So we're going to have to feel the agony of defeat now and then. But in the losses too, and I talked about Kyle McCord being pressured, but we struggled, and coach took responsibility for slow starts again, and we struggled there, and we also struggled getting the run going. So, you kind of pigeonhole yourself a little bit when you get in a position where you're down. What were we down? We're 14-0, right? Or was it 21-0?
No, it was 14-0.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we were down 14-0, and we ended up going up 21-14. That's right, right? So yep. You kind of pigeonhole yourself when you get down that far that early in a game. Like, you have to rely on the passing, and not for anything. Like, it was clear to me that Kyle was feeling it, and he got it going. So he always does push through those moments, and he's very poised in that effect. He stays calm. He just kind of, you see him talking to receivers a little bit. There was a time when he was pressured pretty hard, and he went back to Meeks and had some things to say. But he's out there coaching his guys too, and he just shows a lot of leadership in that sense. And he always does get it going. That's the one thing. But to Dominic's point, like, I don't know if we're wasting his talent, but if he's got time, there's no slow starts. There's no, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think that we're wasting his talent.
No, I don't think so either. I think that
it was never a situation where he was going to come here and we were going to win a national. I mean, obviously you thought people, ACC championship champions to get into the. I don't think that was ever really a reality with knowing the roster that we had coming back and getting that many different players on. First time on the team. You got to figure out how to gel. First time head coach. I mean. That was kind of, that's why we said, well, at least, I don't know what you said, but I said 8-4 in the preview, right? That's what I went with. And I thought that would have been pretty good considering. Also, too, Kyle McCord, he hasn't really gotten a lot of respect. Obviously, that Pittsburgh game hurts him a lot. But everything else that he's been doing throughout this year, I mean, he got put down a lot last year and got a lot of disrespect for losing to Michigan when he was on Ohio State, and all the way to the point where they couldn't guarantee him a starting spot. And to be perfectly honest with you, you could probably question whether or not him coming to a less reputable school, so to speak, and still doing this and fighting through everything, showing how tough he is, the way that he ran yesterday and used his legs.
Big time.
There's been plenty of games where he could have just put his face in his hands and pouted and called it a day, and he doesn't do that, and they fight till the end. And again, I'm always going to give them credit because they're going to fight to the end, and just like yesterday they did.
Yeah, they did. We haven't seen, our coach talked about the one play last week, or maybe it was it was last week in the win to Virginia Tech, the play right before the half. But all in all, this team has got fight. I mean, there's dogs all over this team. They're everywhere. There's leadership everywhere. It's all over the defense. It's all over the offense. I mean, you've got the talent. And it's unfortunate that, you have three D linemen, right? Out for the season.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean,
top ones too.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, now the flip side of that is, well, this is where we end up every November, right? The injuries pile up, lack of depth, people having to step up, and obviously there's struggle there. But yeah,
it looks like there's better depth this year. And
there is, absolutely. That was my point, and I never finished. Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens next year when he's actually got a full year under his belt. He's got the whole, he's been recruiting, he's been working on this. He's not just, he was just brought in and put this thing together. Like, if you guys remember, we were talking about basketball season, and we were coming here during the basketball season talking, dedicating whole shows to what Fran Brown was doing on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal. So, it overshadowed basketball last year. So I would expect nothing but the same when it comes to that after the season's done, when all the news starts coming out. So to be fair, again, it's his first year. I know we all have these expectations where, like you said, I said 9-3. Okay. It's looking like 8-4. If I've got to be honest with myself, for the rest of the slate, but we'll see. California at California, not exactly a gimme. If you watch California yesterday, this is a decent team. This is a really decent team. So we'll see.
Friday.
Yeah, we went out west once and did it. Can we do it again? I mean, I think they can. They bounce back. They bounce back from the ass stomping from Pitt, and let's bounce back again. That's it.
It's basically what we got to do, and then it sucks when you play so slow and so many different missed opportunities, all the way to the point where it's like, dude, our offense was humming, and I saw them get that damn onside kick, and I was like, okay, what are they going to do with the timeout in a minute and 16 seconds, right? I mean, I think that they were humming to the point where I would have been confident that they would have had a chance to go down and win that game.
Oh, I was totally confident in that. Yeah, defense stepped up big towards the end of that game, and giving them a shot. So Nadal says is started listening to us as a big basketball fan, but he says the pain y'all have caused me getting me into football too. Sorry, buddy. It is what it is. There's pain on both. There's pain in both of it. Let's be honest. There's always gonna be some pain. At Mr. Mike Winch, unacceptable. Can't lose that game. This will be on the level of Dino Fool You descent season. Probably 8-4 and a pinstripe bowl. I really love Fran Brown, so I'm trying to give him the growth time he needs as a head coach, but they need more discipline. I mean, look, I would have to agree with some of the discipline, but with that said, things are gonna happen, and
of course.
And these guys, they ain't perfect, so they ain't gonna go out there and execute perfectly every game. But these comments too, everybody should realize that they were probably immediately following the game when frustrations were as high as they could get. And the real thing, the thing I was most pissed about, again, and I'll say it again, is that it was Boston College. Like, I just hate Boston College and Pitt. Oh my gosh, it sucks. It hurts so bad. At rfiles90, I need a legitimate answer for why we've stuck with this 3-3-5 formation, and what adjustments did they try to make in defending against the only thing BC was going to do with the ball. I got nothing for that one, Joe.
I mean, he's asking the wrong people. I feel like.
He is. He's asking the wrong people. Exactly.
The only thing that I can assume is that, and there has been some people that have said this about the 3-3-5, is that you always kind of, you switch out a little bit of size for athleticism and for other guys like that. When you look at our back seven and the guys that were allowed on that field to do the 3-3-5, and you see all that talent. I mean, some of the linebackers that are even sitting out because of how talented that group is, having Elijah Clark, Deuce Chestnut, Justin Barron, Marlowe back, Derek McDonald when he's good to go, going in and out. Like, it's Devin Grant. It's hard not to have those guys on the field, especially when you have certain injuries on the defensive line. So there's always internal things going on that we can sit here as a fan base. Like, I could look at Facebook and there's about 10 out of the 15 comments that's talking about, someone has to go. Defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach. Like 300 plus yards rushing is not acceptable. 300 yards against the defense designed to stop the pass makes total sense. Why in God's name are we running the 3-3-5 defense? Like, there's reasons. Okay, they're smarter than us. They're getting paid to do this for a reason. And the same reason why you're not getting paid to do this, right? So I can only assume that they're going to go out there with what they got and what works for them best, and that they're going to fight until the end, which we saw them do.
The first thing is that you said there's 15 comments on Facebook. That is pathetic and also exciting at the same time, since Facebook does not garner any kind of traffic. But with that said, it seems to be like with the Facebook crowd and the Twitter crowd, like it's weird because they run consistent per platform. You know what I mean? Like, you get a lot of redundancy on Facebook, and I get a little bit. It's usually the same stuff, but there's a lot of original content on the Twitter side of things. I just find that odd. But that's it. I do. Let me skip this one because it talks about the 3-3-5. Speaking of which, at Coming Soon 62, poor look on the whole staff for not coaching proper tackling to an egregious lack of adjustment to playing that LT at all, to blow out coverages and erratic throws despite his 390 plus yards. Why have 20-yard route when you only need 10 on fourth down? Was that the 4th and 1 call I think he's talking about? Look, I don't know if I have much for Joey. Ironically, Joey G.
Oh boy.
So, is that your is that your burner account, dude? You're not supposed to use your real name. Let's see. At Drew Cuse, D coordinator is the shakiest of coaches on the staff. They got to make the adjustments when the other team is so one-dimensional. I know players have to execute, but coaches have to put them in situations to allow them to.
Yeah, that's unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
No, especially, and again, that comes back to your immediate response versus waiting to hear Fran Brown and his explanation in his press conference and how, he overrode some of the calls that Coach Elijah wanted to do. So, there's reasons why we're doing the things that we're doing. They're not there because they're dumb. So.
No, and I mean, look, Coach took responsibility. We'll see what happens going forward. There is some consistencies. I feel like there's enough consistencies in the losses to, at this point, be able to change some of that stuff. But look, this stuff's gonna happen. So at Oil Cuse, our buddy Captain Patrick, illegal block. Give me an effing break. Those refs were terrible. So Patrick is like my spirit animal in the fact that he goes right to the one play that pissed me off the most the whole game. So I mean, I can't disagree with that, Patrick. I really can't. So I do have some egregious takes in here on who should be in control of whose job. But with that said, I'll try to get past some of these. How about the CW broadcasters? If you were able to be forced to listen to that and not mute your TV. Because, huh?
I said, yeah, they're pretty bad.
They're pretty bad, right? They can't do math.
Definitely can't.
For 10 minutes, he couldn't do math.
Math, not meth.
Well, at Sealed Druid 08, pretty decent shootout game to watch. I think Syracuse gave it their all, minus the defensive scheme. Break it down quite a bit at times. And like you said, man, I think they give it their all. I think they constantly give it their all. I think there's good leadership on both sides of the ball that will not allow them to quit. No. And you just don't see it. And not for anything. They still had a shot at the end of this thing until they didn't. So
yep.
It just, in the loss to Pitt, okay, I blamed a lot of that loss on kind of being outcoached. And you kind of look at a little bit more of the same with this, It kind of was the focal point of it was at least the focal point of the start of the press conference. And with that said, it's his first year. And we kind of, not that we expect these things, but he's learning. This is, he's all of a sudden a head coach. From a position coach to a head coach. Like,
right
at the snap of a finger. So I do love his passion, though, on the field. He's not afraid to let players have it. And he's also not afraid to give them love and dap them up and smack them around with all love. When I say smack them around, it's all love. But anyway, yeah. What do you got to finish up, Joe? Facebook.
All right, so buddy Johnny Carlin. Didn't know Ashton Jaunty transferred from Boise State to Boston College midseason. Run defense couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. Third quarter, giving up 16 unanswered points was a killer. It was, however, refreshing to see someone have worse special teams play than us. On to the next one. Yeah, it's kind of true. They did have some bad.
I told you in the preview they only kicked like one field goal the whole year.
Yeah, when they tried another one, we saw why. It
was terrible. Yeah, it was bad. I didn't realize they were that bad at that until I looked for I looked in the in the preview, just checking it, and I can't even remember how I got stumbled onto it, but I was like, damn, they don't kick field goals at all.
That was the one reason why I thought that the commentators yesterday were saying that, right? But they never brought up the actual kicking. They were just like, we don't understand why they didn't go for 2. It took them a quarter and a half to realize why Boston College kept kicking PATs instead of going for 2s. So it was pretty interesting about that.
Here's a solid point by David in the spaces. Yes, Sean, losing to BC and Pitt sucks. Glass half full, though. Taking out that fan frustration and beating the absolute piss out of UConn will help cleanse the soul. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But let's be honest, though, David. Like, we hate UConn more in the other sport, right? It's always great. It was like back before Duke was like all of a sudden really good at football too. Like, it was still a good consolation prize to beat them in football, right?
And now it's playing more in football than we do basketball.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
and the scary thing is that UConn actually don't look half. I mean, I know they're in a crap conference, but they got a pretty good record right now. And
you're pissing all over David's parade.
All of our rivalries have beat us so far this year. So imagine that, losing to Pitt, Boston College, and UConn in football in one season.
No, I'd quit. I'd quit. We already hit 500 episodes. I'd quit. I saw
that comment on Twitter.
Which one?
About somebody said that they started listening a couple months ago and they're wondering why everybody makes fun of me.
Yeah. It's because of Patrick. And you know what? Patrick lays down a clean response here. He's so focused. He's so focused on the refs. He doesn't even take a shot at you. So maybe he was just giving you a break. Maybe he figured, you know what, that we lost. I'm not going to take a dig at Joe. But yeah, that's just something that's evolved. And, you know, the fans love it.
They do. You and him do.
Yeah, no. Well, we're the fans. Okay, I think that's it. Is there any sense of keep going here? Let's maybe do this one last one. Do you have any more?
Yes, I do.
I think I got one more too. Go ahead.
All right, so top fan Andy Stewart.
Oh, okay, great.
Flew to Boston from Austin on Friday night for today's game. A little disappointed in the run defense, but not really shocked by it. More concerned I'll be hearing Kai Robichaud's name in my sleep tonight after hearing his name all game. The goal is 8 games. There's 3 left. Cuse fans need to stop crying. We aren't that good, but we aren't that bad, just kind of in between. Teams like that lose some and win some, and I'll take that for a new coach's first year. Lose against Cal next week, and I might have a different choice of words. LOL. Yeah,
that's kind of it. I mean, I agree with just about all of that. And losing against Cal next week would be a huge blow just to us as fans. They bounce back against Pitt. I guess I'm going to trust that they bounce back again. We haven't picked them to lose yet. If I was going to pick them to lose any game for the rest of the year, it's obviously Miami. But I did and by the way, when I picked 9-3, I think I had my losses as NC State, Miami, and Pitt. So just Boston College wasn't on the radar. That's another thing. You know what I mean? I just don't feel like Boston College is that good. But, you know, when you're a team that's been outscored 46-0 in the last 3 games in the fourth quarter, and you're on a 3-game losing streak, and you get a bye, and then you're hosting Syracuse, I wish I'd have seen the writing on the wall there a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you like to think that Syracuse is just going to come out and overcome all that, but that's a lot going in BC's favor. So, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At Runners Resolve, everyone knew BC was going to run nearly every play, and we couldn't do anything about it. Too many stupid fouls. I agree with that 100%. There's a lot of dumb penalties.
10 penalties.
For how many yards?
91.
Too many. Yeah, some big ones.
Yeah.
It keeps taking us it keeps taking us the first 1.5 quarters into the game to get going. Our offensive line is just meh, and that's being kind. Yeah. I mean, I agree with him. I agree with all that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it sucks. It does. It sucks. But I've kind of been bagging on the offensive line all season. I don't know. I guess it's because I just feel bad. You got a guy that comes here, and a good freaking quarterback, and he's out there sometimes running for his life. And I mean, he had a good 40-something yard scramble that was taken back because of a hold. Now you can look at that play and you could say, well, without that hold, he might not have ran for that much. But I guess we'll never know because he held. So
yeah, and there was a couple of those. It kind of blew my mind that they ran the ball for however many times that they did, and there's only one holding call. I felt like there was another time where Kyle McCord got hit in the helmet. They didn't call anything, and I always thought that if you got hit in the helmet regardless, then it was maybe that's just NFL, but. So, and we had to punt on that possession. So there was a couple things that the refs missed, but we also, I think, got a couple calls too with some pass interferences. So a lot of times they seem to even themselves out, except for when it comes down to the last play of the game.
I mean, I just don't think this would go for even if it was on the other side, if it was consistent. It's kind of like the end of a basketball game where all of a sudden the refs are controlling like how the outcome of the game goes. I'm not saying that's what they did, but unless that call's egregious, I don't think you call it at the end of the game like that when guys are playing.
Right.
That's kind of a knee-jerk flag. Like it was just too quick. It looks suspicious. Like, were you waiting for it? Because it looks like you're waiting for it. And I guess that's all I guess that's why I was so upset. Like, it's the end of the game, man. Let them play the freaking game. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't.
Well, also, I feel like it not being a part of the result of the play, right? I mean, Kai Robichaud, he jumped up because the ball was coming.
And it
went over his hand. So, I mean, whatever Fadil Diggs did to him had nothing to do with the outcome of that play.
Right. Exactly. That's a solid point.
Pretty much hurt me more than any part of that.
One more to finish up. I think this is a Spaces comment. No, this is a late thoughts on the game. At the Cuse, Dino Babers came in to change the culture. He had Ohana, Fran Brown came in preaching a new culture. Dart. SU is one of 50 or so teams in the Power Four that will forever be stuck in mediocrity. They will get the occasional 4 to 5 star player, but mostly 2 and 3 star players. Well, we'll see. To be fair, we shall see. That already has ticked up. I think the disciplined and accountable part of this is where we need work. And we don't see the accountability most of the time. That's going to happen outside of a game. But the discipline part, we see that every snap, regardless. So, I mean, a little bit of work to do there. Relentless and tough. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I would never take that away from them. But there's some disciplinary issues, I think, to be...
Detailed, right?
What's that?
It's detailed, right?
Detailed, yeah. Detailed, but...
accountable. He holds himself and other players accountable. It's just hard to do that, while the game's going on. You have seen him take guys out, though, that haven't done their job, right? So...
True.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes you get so... I mean, you have the roster you have. There's no free agency. There's no trades in college. There's free agency just in the offseason. So there's no trades. You can't change the team that you have once the season starts. So I just think that naturally sometimes you get stuck with maybe you're just not as deep in one position, or you think you have all the talent to fill up a room, and then it just doesn't pan out. I mean, those things happen, and you kind of get stuck with. I mean, sometimes you have issues just because of the personnel, and they're just not fixable until you change the personnel into the next year. So you just hope that he's taking into the offseason the things he needs to change from his personnel, and he uses that in the transfer portal.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have anything else. I think we've said all there is to say.
Yeah.
And we all know that no one likes tuning in when it's a loss anyway. So that's going to do it to us before I waste any more of my time. Appreciate you all for listening. If you're still listening, I appreciate you. Some new listeners here and there. We appreciate you. Spread the word. Help us out. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.